T.H. Gillespie here with another tip from Gillespie Studio. Today we're going to be doing a jazz chart, Autumn Leaves. It's a famous jazz chart. Countless musicians have played it through the years. But we're going to show you in this video that you don't really have to be that advanced to play a chart like this and to make it sound like a legitimate piece of jazz. And even though our musicians today are not going to be playing it with a lot of advanced virtuosity, I still think it's important that beginning musicians learn the feel of jazz and learn some of the basic principles and concepts and begin to apply it, even if it's in a fairly elementary way. At least it gives them a taste of what jazz is like. And I think then as they continue on their journey, if they want to pursue jazz and become more virtuosic, well, then that's up to them and their teachers, and if they and how much they want to practice and so forth. But at least we're giving beginning musicians a taste of what it's like to play jazz. We've got Matthew Beard today and Matthew Olivares, who are going to help us. One is 13 years old and one is 14 years old. And we're going to demonstrate that they can play a jazz chart and do it fairly well, even though they are not that experienced and well-versed in jazz. We're going to break it down for you and show you what they're doing, and so that maybe you too can try this. Some of you may have noticed, but some jazz videos and instructional videos and books assume that musicians already are fairly advanced. There tends to be a lack of a tool, a book, a video that shows you how to do jazz in the early stages of your musical development. It's almost like everybody just assumes that it's too hard for beginners, and therefore you have to wait until you're more advanced before you can even start it. And what we want to show you today is that musicians who are maybe they know how to read notes more or less. They've worked with their instruments for maybe 2 or 3 years. And so they're still relatively beginners, maybe beginner to intermediate, playing some of their repertoire and their material. But we're going to demonstrate that musicians like these can get started with some basic concepts in jazz and can pursue that. What we're going to do is break it down for you and show you what each person is doing, and show you that it's really not that difficult to play and improvise on a jazz chart. So first of all, what the pianist is going to be doing is based on chord triads, basic triads. A triad in a chord is made up of the first note and third note and fifth note of the scale. So if you were going do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do would be the first note, mi would be the third note, and so would be the fifth note. Do, mi, so, 1, 3, 5. And so if you were playing a C major chord, for example, that would be C, E, G. That's the 1 and the 3 and the 5 of the C major scale. If you were going to play a D major chord, it would be D, F sharp, and A. That's the 1, 3, and 5 of the D major scale. And so then what the bass player is going to be doing is similar in the sense that the bass player is not going to be playing chords per se, not solid chords where you play the 1 and the 3 and the 5 all at the same time. But he is going to play the basic triad of each chord. The 1 and the 3 and the 5 and then the 3 again, but he's going to do it in a broken fashion. So it's going to be 1, 3, 5, 3. He's going to be playing one note at a time and breaking the chord up. So one of the easiest ways to approach playing a chord chart is just to use basic easy chords. That is 1 and 3 and 5 triads as your in root position. So for example, if I was going to play a G chord, it would be a G, a B, and a D. If I was going to play an A chord, it would be A, C sharp, and E. If I was going to play a G minor chord, it would be G, B flat, and D. The 1, the flat 3, and the 5. If I was going to play A minor, it'd be the 1, the flat 3, and the 5. A, C, E. That's A minor. Well, and as a starting exercise, you could play any chord chart, even jazz chord charts, just using that basic triad. The problem is that most jazz charts do color the chords. That is, they have sevenths in them, or sixes, or nines, or flat fives, or sharp nines, and things like that. So it's not just a straight ahead triad. It's a triad maybe with a seventh in it, or a flat 7. So for example, a G7 chord, instead of just playing G, B, D, you would hit G, B, D, and F, which is the flat 7 of G. And that's a G7 chord. Now, in jazz, as is true with a lot of genres of music, you wouldn't necessarily want to play in root position. You'd want to mix up with various inversions and things, like a G chord. Instead of playing like this, you might play up here, or you might play up here. And sometimes you might even leave out a note, like you might go like that, or you might go, even just those 2 notes works as a G7 chord sometimes. But as a starter exercise, I believe just using root position is fine, and adding the 7th is not that hard to do, the flat 7. So there's a G7. A G major 7 would be adding the F sharp on top. A minor 7, you add the flat 7 on top. The D7, you can play a D, and you can add the flat 7. And just to keep things easy, just go ahead and make it root position. Now, what our pianist is going to do, Matthew is going to play the chords in his left hand, and he's going to be playing the melody or improvising in his right hand, which is a very common practice in jazz. And in his left hand, he's going to be playing root position chords for the most part, with the color, with the 7th on top. And we're just keeping it very simple. He's just going to do mostly root position chords with a 7th added. And if it's a major 7th, it would be the 7th scale degree on G major 7. Or if it's a flat 7, it would be, and in music theory, that's also known as a dominant 7th chord voicing. So Matthew's going to play these root position 7th chords in his left hand. And then he's going to be playing the melody in his right hand. So that's the melody, the basic melody of Autumn Leaves. It's not that hard. It's really just G major scale or E minor scale. or G major, same difference. You just have all the white keys, and F sharp, that's G major scale. And his improvisation is going to be mainly consisting of notes on the G major scale or E minor scale. And then sometimes he's going to try to do a little blues by playing on the E blues scale or E minor pentatonic scale. So it might be something like this. So you're putting in the G major scale melody, but then you're maybe adding some notes, and the notes that you add and improvise on can be from those scales, but can also include a little blues type of flavor. And he's not even going to be playing the chords much in his left hand on the second verse. If you're a beginner and you just want to concentrate on improvising, let the rest of the band, the rhythm section, the bass player, they can handle the chord changes. And so you can just improvise in the right hand a little bit. And that way you don't have to focus on too many things. And then for the third verse, he's going to go back to playing the chords again, and he's going to play the melody again, and then maybe put in a couple little improvisational things in the third verse. So the first verse is the straight ahead melody, which in jazz we call the head. He's going to play the head, and then the second verse he's going to improvise, and then on the last verse he's going to play the head again. Now he's also going to play chords on one verse and let the bass player improvise a bass solo. And so when the bass player plays his bass solo, he's going to basically do the same thing. He's going to use the E minor scale or G major scale and use those notes when he plays his bass solo. But when he's doing that, the pianist then only just plays the chords, being the rhythm section in the background. And so that's what Matthew will be doing on the piano. The bass player, whose name is also Matthew, he's going to be utilizing chords as well, and basic root position chords as well, except he's going to be walking a bass line. So instead of playing a G chord on the bass, he's going to be playing a G and a B and a D and a B. He's going to be breaking the chord up into 1, 3, 5, and he's going to be doing it on the bass, walking a line every quarter beat. Go ahead. So the bass line starts on an A minor, and it goes to a D, and then it goes to a G, and then it goes to a C. So the bass line is going to look something like this. It'll start on A minor, then it'll go to D, then it'll go to G, then C. So all he's doing, it's actually very simple. He's just playing the 1 and the 3 and the 5 of each chord, and he's doing it in quarter beats on the bass. So it really sounds kind of like a walking bass line. It's jazz bass players will do this often when they're playing on a jazz chart. They may be adding other things, and they may be doing fancier things, but at its very basic level, just if you play the notes on the triad in quarter beats like that, it'll sound like a pretty good walking bass line. And so what we're saying is, to get to the point where you're actually jamming on a jazz chart, you don't necessarily have to be that advanced, as long as you know your basic triads and add the sevenths for the pianist. And then you just have to learn the melody line. And I would say the hardest part of the whole project would be to keep time. And you'll notice on this video that the two Matthews, sometimes they do have a little bit of a glitch once or twice in the rhythm section, in the rhythm of what they're doing. Sometimes they'll get just a little off, or they'll maybe miss half a beat here and there. But for the most part, they were able to jam on this, not being all that experienced in jazz, just knowing some of the basic information that we have given you, and they were able to jam on Autumn Leaves and make it sound like a pretty decent little piece of jazz. So here we go.